Learning Cantonese in Hong Kong can be sometimes confusing, especially when it comes to place names and names of the MTR stations. Hello, 大家好，我係 soooo Marguerite and welcome back to my little Cantonese corner. 今日2025年10月27號星期一. Today it is Monday the 27th of October 2025 and today I'm going to be walking you through some of these station names on the MTR. Because I know when I first came to Hong Kong, it was 1988. There were 3 MTR lines, the green, the blue, and the red. And the conductor was the one doing the train announcements. Nowadays, of course, we've got that beautiful voice, the girl who does fantastic with our station announcements and next station. But back then it was just the conductor and he was not really that concerned about how well he enunciated his words. And so being a new learner of Cantonese, I knew that ha gao was shrimp dumplings. And I could not for the life of me figure out why it sounded like he was saying shrimp dumplings every time we approached a new station on the MTR. Now, of course, he wasn't saying shrimp dumplings, but it sounded like ha gao zam is the next station, when he was really saying ha yako zam, right? Ha yako zam, hai wan shai, but he was just saying, yeah, ha gao zam. And it was the funniest thing. And I finally asked friends, like, what is he really saying? Which is exactly how we learn. We try to make connections. It doesn't work. Ask your friends, consult a dictionary. And that's a great way to learn. So fast forward nowadays, we've got brilliant announcements on the MTR, but you might notice that there are some MTR stations where they carry the same character, the same word in English, which is W-A-N. That is Wan. So we have, for example, on the island line, we have Shang Wan, and we have, well, Wan Chai, and we have Chai Wan, and maybe a few others. Maybe none. I can never remember off the top of my head which stations. I'll put a map up and we'll go through all of them. But just take a look, for example, at Shang Wan as opposed to Chai Wan. Same Wan, but one is pronounced Shang Wan, and one is pronounced Chai Wan. So you've got Wan and you've got Wan. But that makes sense because there's 2 different characters. But then you take a look at Taiwan, right? Taiwan, Wan is high tone number 1. And you go across to Kowloon's side on the red line and you've got Cheung Sha Wan in English, same W-A-N. And you look at the character and you're like, okay, that character matches Taiwan. So it should be Cheung Sa Wan. But no, it's not. It's Cheung Sa Wan. And the Wan is that low falling 4th Wan. Cheung Sa Wan. And I'm like, why? Why would they have the character for bay, meaning literally long, sandy, and then bay, or long strip of sand, but not pronounce it in that way? And I was told, and you guys can comment below with what you think, that it sounds better. And I think it does, because I actually was shocked when I looked at the dictionary and found that, oh my gosh, I've been saying this wrong all the time. I thought Cheung Sa Wan was correct. And then come to find it should be Cheung Sa Wan. And so I'm like, okay, I'm wrong. I must be wrong, which is not out of the realm of possibility. I am frequently wrong. And that's how we learn, is we make a mistake and we learn from it, only to find out that no, I was right, just picking it up as we go along, and from what you hear, Cheung Sa Wan is correct. And so that was kind of another confusing thing, because I'm like, wait a minute, it just kind of does your head in. You know, if you're learning Cantonese, you know what I mean, right? It's like, wait a minute. Okay, you know what I mean. So moving on from that. So we have that discrepancy with like a Taiwan or Wan Zai, they're all Wan, 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 and then you get Cheung Sa Wan, which doesn't match. Then let's go back over to the island for Causeway Bay. Now, Causeway Bay is a little different, right? Because it's an English name, Causeway Bay. It's not anything we have to pretend to pronounce. It's not a transliteration of Chinese like Shang Wan or Chai Wan. So Causeway Bay, no problem. And then we look at it and we see the Wan character, which is Bay in its high tone. We're going to get to that Bay character in a moment and do a deeper dive. But for now, it should be correctly Tong Lo Wan, Tong Lo Wan. And it is. Even the MTR announcer says Tong Lo Wan. But then if you ask other people, they might be pronouncing it Tong Lo Wan. And you're like, okay, so anything goes in Causeway Bay. You can pronounce it Tong Lo Wan, or you can pronounce it Tong Lo Wan, which I think is kind of cool. You don't have to worry. It's one of those free cards. So yay. And then I wanted to take a look also at the different characters. So let's take a deep dive into the Bay character. Now, this is the Bay character here, and you'll notice if you're learning characters that the radical is probably going to be water, right? We see the radical there on the left side as being the samdim soooo, and which is your water radical. And that makes sense because the Bay is full of water. But I want to digress here a little bit into another character that's very similar, but does not have that water radical. And in fact, it's this character here, which also has the high tone pronunciation, wan, but this one means curve. And you'll know this because when you're telling the taxi driver directions and you're saying Junwan, right? Hai xin bin Junwan, or whatever you're saying, Junwan is going to be how to say turn the corner, but you're actually saying turn at the curve in the road, right? Junwan. So this character here is not using the water radical, no surprise, because there's not a lot of water in a curve. It's using the gong radical that you see there at the bottom. And that radical actually means bow, or like not the bow that you tie, but a bow, you know, you pull back and it has an arrow and you let it fly, that kind of bow. So I think that's really interesting because when you're learning characters, there are characters that you'll see and you'll be like, I know. For example, you know wan is bay, and you see this one for curve, and you might think, okay, I can guess the pronunciation is going to be wan, or maybe a different tone, but I'm going to get kind of close. And then, of course, ask a native speaking friend or look it up in the dictionary and confirm your suspicion. And that's kind of a really fun way to increase your vocabulary and learn more words. So I highly recommend that you do that. So that was something else, that wan character meaning bay. But now let's take a look at the other character for W-A-N in English, which is your wan, as in your shan wan or zhong wan. And that character actually means like an area, like a enclosed, maybe not enclosed is not the right word, but like encircled kind of area. Not that you literally have a circle around it, but just this, an area that you know the area you're talking about, right? So on Hong Kong Island, in the old days, they actually had Saiwan, and that's on the western part of the island. I'm going to digress here a little bit and talk about the eastern side of the island because, oh my gosh, if you have heard, you've got Siu Saiwan over on the far eastern side of Hong Kong Island. Why they have a Siu, little, Sai, west, Wan, a little west bay, over on the east side of the island, when there's literally nothing comparing there. There's no like little east and then there's, okay, little west, okay, it makes sense. No, it's just little west bay on the east side of the island. But then you've got Saiwan, which is Saiwan, that little encircled area. This character here, which is your Saiwan, which makes sense. It's on the western side of the island. And that western area is then next to Shanwan, which is the upper encircled area, which is our Shanwan that we know. And then next to that, you've got Zhongwan, the same wan character, right, throughout all of them. So west, upper, central. And then you actually, in the old days, they had a lower encircled area, kind of a lower one called, as you would imagine, your Hawan, right? So your Hawan was down there. And then around the time the MTR first came about in 1979, so about around that time when they really had to name the stations, they kind of broke it up. Maybe by that time, I'm asking you guys if you know this, like the Hawan, was that kind of still in favor back then? Or had that already fallen out of favor and they were already calling it like Central, Admiralty, Wan Chai, Causeway Bay? Because back then those areas were known as the lower area. So you had Western, Upper, Central, and Lower. I thought that was pretty cool because now we're really only left, well, we're left with 3 of them, right? So kind of cool. But let me know if you guys thought that that was interesting. I will put the names of all the stations in the description box, and you can take a look and see, with the exception of Cheongsa-wan, all the rest of the Wan characters are going to be that high tone. So practice that, and yeah, have fun with it. Also, I'd like to let you guys know that I am trying to expand my channel, starting a Patreon, and I've got a poll going just to see what you guys are interested in seeing from an expanded Cantonese corner. So definitely, I'll leave the link down below in the description box and in the pinned comment. Take the poll, just let me know what other kind of things you're interested in seeing from my channel, and I'll do my best to provide that. And let's see what else. Any questions? Put them down there in the comments. I'd love to see what you guys think. Add to the conversation. Let's keep learning. And if you're learning Cantonese, contact me for lessons. I'm going to try my best to put them up on I'm going to put them up on Patreon. So hopefully they'll be available more in an online kind of group setting. But I'm available for private lessons. So give me a shout out at my email. And yeah, otherwise have a great day. And I will talk to you all in the next video. Bye for now.